They never warned you, did they? No one sat you down in your 50s or 60s and said, "Hey, your body's changing, and the things that used to give you energy might now be quietly draining it." Masturbation, that private, deeply personal habit, often stays exactly that, private. You don't talk about it. You don't ask questions. You just keep doing it the way you always have, assuming it's harmless, natural, maybe even necessary. But here's what most men over 60 never hear. The rules change after 60. The same daily release that once helped you sleep better or relieve stress may now be stealing your stamina, dulling your desire, even weakening your erections, and the worst part, you're not doing anything wrong. You just weren't told the truth. You weren't told that after 60, your nervous system becomes more sensitive, your prostate is more delicate, your hormones are more fragile. You weren't told that overstimulation, especially when it becomes a habit, can throw off your body's natural rhythms, leaving you feeling empty instead of alive. And if you've ever asked yourself, why am I still tired after 8 hours of sleep? Why don't I feel that fire anymore? Why does climax feel more like a flicker than a flame? You're not broken. You're just uninformed. This video isn't here to shame you. It's here to finally tell the truth no one ever had the courage or kindness to say. Because once you understand how your body actually works after 60, you can reclaim control, reclaim strength, even rekindle pleasure in a way that leaves you feeling more like a man, not less. This isn't about quitting, it's about evolving. Let's talk about what's really happening behind closed doors and how small changes can bring you back to life. Stay with me because this one habit could be the key to unlocking the vitality you thought was gone for good. You used to wake up feeling ready, strong, clear, full of life. Morning wood was just part of the routine, almost like breathing, that quiet pulse of manhood reminding you that your engine was still running. But lately, it's different. You wake up and there's nothing. Or maybe you try to get intimate, but your body doesn't respond the way it used to. Climax comes quicker or not at all, and after, instead of feeling energized, you just feel tired, heavy, disconnected. You tell yourself it's normal, just aging, right? But somewhere inside you wonder, is this it? Most men don't realize that after 60, your sexual system undergoes a quiet evolution. Testosterone dips. Blood flow slows, the nervous system becomes more sensitive, more easily exhausted. What once brought energy and confidence now leaves you feeling drained, and here's the hardest part, you were never told. No doctor explained how your habits, especially the ones you keep private, can actually shape your health, your hormones, even your emotional state. You just kept doing what you always did, thinking it was harmless. But after 60, nothing is just like before. I've seen it in my clinic. Men who thought their lack of desire was just bad luck when really, it was chronic overstimulation. Men who thought they were losing their edge when all they needed was to understand the new rhythm of their body. And maybe that's where you are now. This isn't about guilt. It's about awareness. Because once you realize your body isn't failing you, it's simply asking for a different kind of care, everything starts to change. You still can feel strong, still can feel turned on, still can experience deep, satisfying release. But it starts with letting go of old patterns and listening to what your body is really telling you now. Let's go deeper into the silent shame no one talks about and the healing that's waiting on the other side. There's a kind of loneliness that no one talks about, not the kind that comes from being alone in a room, but the kind that comes from being untouched, unseen, forgotten in the ways that once made you feel like a man. At some point, the intimacy fades. Maybe she stopped reaching for you. Maybe you stopped trying. Maybe life, grief, illness, or silence just crept in, and now there's just you and the one habit you've always had to fall back on, masturbation, a release, a ritual, something private, personal, maybe even necessary. But lately, it doesn't feel the same, does it? You find yourself going through the motions, not for pleasure, but out of habit, not to feel alive, but to avoid feeling empty, and afterward, instead of calm. There's guilt instead of strength, there's fatigue instead of connection, just quiet shame, And that's the part no one prepared you for, that something once natural, once innocent, could begin to feel hollow, even painful as you grow older. I've sat across from men who whispered these truths like confessions. Doc, I don't even enjoy it anymore, but I still do it, every day. I just don't know why. And here's what I tell them, and what I want you to hear now. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not alone. That private habit, it became a substitute for what you truly needed: closeness, touch, connection, even just the feeling of being wanted. But no habit, no matter how natural, can replace the deeper human need for presence. And when that need goes unmet for too long, even the things that once brought comfort begin to lose their meaning. This isn't about quitting. It's about awakening, reclaiming your relationship with your body, with your desires, with yourself, because there's no shame in needing release, but there's freedom in understanding why you reach for it, and how to do it in a way that nourishes you, not empties you. And that journey starts now. James was 68 when he first sat across from me in the exam room. A tall man, quiet but proud, the kind who kept his pain to himself, a widower for 6 years, retired, living alone in the same house he built with his wife. His eyes were kind, but there was a weariness behind them, something he didn't know how to name. He came in for low energy, trouble sleeping, mild prostate discomfort. Nothing urgent, he said, just off. But as we talked, the real story began to surface. He confessed carefully, hesitantly, that he'd developed a routine. Every night before bed, he would release, not out of lust, but out of loneliness. Out of habit, out of boredom maybe. It started as a comfort, something that helped him fall asleep. But over time it became automatic, and yet afterward he always felt worse, not better. His words stuck with me. It used to make me feel alive. Now I just feel empty. What James didn't realize, and what so many men his age aren't told, is that the body changes after 60. The nervous system becomes more fragile. Hormonal rhythms shift. And when release becomes mechanical instead of meaningful, it doesn't give energy, it takes it. We ran tests. His prostate was slightly inflamed, testosterone on the low side, sleep disrupted. No major medical threat, just a system running on fumes, silently drained by a habit meant to soothe. But this wasn't just about biology. It was about loss, about using pleasure to mask pain, about reaching for something familiar in the silence of grief. I gave James a new kind of prescription, not a pill, but a pause. A chance to reset, to relearn his body, to ask why before when. And over the next few months, his energy returned, slowly but surely. His mornings felt clearer, his shame eased. He started walking more, sleeping deeper, even smiling when he came in. James didn't need to stop. He just needed to understand, and maybe so do you. Here's something no one told you when you hit 60. Your body doesn't respond to pleasure the same way it used to, not because you're broken, but because your biology has evolved. Let's talk about what actually happens inside you during self-pleasure. When you climax, your brain releases dopamine, the reward chemical. It gives you that quick burst of satisfaction. But after 60, your nervous system becomes more sensitive to this surge and more easily depleted. What used to give you energy now sometimes leaves you drained. And then there's prolactin, a hormone that floods your system after orgasm. In younger men, it fades fast, but as you age, it lingers longer, dulling your desire and even affecting mood. That fog you feel afterward, that's not in your head, that's chemistry. Now let's talk testosterone. Frequent ejaculation in younger years might not have much of an impact, but after 60, too much too often can cause subtle hormonal imbalances. Your body has to work harder to rebuild those reserves. That's energy you're borrowing, not energy you're gaining. And your prostate, that walnut-sized gland that quietly supports your sexual health, is more sensitive now. Constant stimulation can inflame it. Over time, This leads to slower flow, discomfort, and a dull pressure most men ignore until it becomes a problem. You may have heard the old myth, use it or lose it. But here's the truth, it's not about using it more. It's about using it wisely. Science now shows that quality beats quantity slower. More mindful pleasure enhances nerve signaling, supports prostate wellness, and actually helps maintain testosterone balance. The right rhythm matters. Even the time of day matters. Morning sessions tend to support hormonal flow better than late night habits, which can interrupt deep sleep and recovery. This doesn't mean you stop. It means you learn the new language of your body, because after 60, your pleasure isn't just about release. It's about renewal, and once you understand the science, not the shame, you'll know how to pleasure yourself in a way that energizes, not exhausts. That heals, not hides, that builds you up. Instead of breaking you down, you don't need to give it up. You just need to do it differently, with wisdom, with rhythm, and with respect for the man your body has become. After 60, pleasure isn't just about release anymore. It's about reconnection with your energy, your breath, your sense of self. So let's break the silence and lay out 5 golden rules for healthy self-pleasure in your later years. Rule #1. Don't rush. Forget the old days of get it done. Instead, slow down, take time, use touch not just for release, but for sensation. This isn't a chore, it's nourishment. Reconnect with feeling, not fantasy. Rule #2. Morning is better than midnight. Your testosterone levels peak early in the day. That's when your body is most primed for pleasure. Late night sessions, especially out of habit or boredom, often drain more than they give. Honor your biology, not your clock. Rule #3. Less is often more. You don't need to stop entirely, but doing it too often every day, sometimes multiple times, can sap your strength. Aim for balance. 2 to 3 times per week is often ideal for men over 60. Let your body miss the feeling, so it can fully enjoy it again. Rule #4. Ditch the porn. Overuse of pornography desensitizes the mind and dulls the body's natural response. You begin to rely on visual noise instead of your own touch and presence. Try silence, try memory, try just being with yourself. Rule #5. Breathe with it. This may sound strange, but breathing slow, full, intentional during self-pleasure boosts oxygen, enhances blood flow, and turns a quick release into a full body recharge. Your breath is your most powerful tool. Don't ignore it. These aren't restrictions, they're restorations. You've spent decades giving your body what it craved. Now, it's time to give it what it needs, a slower rhythm, a softer approach, a stronger connection. Because the goal now isn't just release, it's renewal, and when you learn to honor this habit, not hide it, it becomes a source of life, not shame. You don't need a partner. You don't need approval. And you sure as hell don't need to ask permission to feel like a man again. That fire in your belly, it's still there, maybe dimmed, maybe buried under years of stress, shame, or silence, but not gone. You've just been taught to ignore it, to tone it down, to believe that after 60, passion fades and purpose dissolves into routine. But let me tell you something powerful. Your masculinity doesn't retire when your hair turns gray. It evolves when you start treating your body with care. When you begin honoring your urges instead of hiding them, something changes. Blood flows stronger, sleep deepens, erections return not just in strength, but in meaning. You begin to feel again, not just arousal, but aliveness, not because someone touched you, not because someone told you you're attractive, but because you chose to reconnect with yourself, your body, your rhythm, your breath. That's the secret no one tells aging men. You don't need to wait for someone to make you feel like a man. You already are one. You just forgot how to listen to that quiet truth inside. I've seen men walk into my office with slumped shoulders, soft voices, and downcast eyes, and months later walk out with fire in their step, not because they reversed time, but because they reclaimed it. They stopped apologizing for needing touch, stopped shaming themselves for self-pleasure. and started seeing their body not as something failing, but as something waiting to be understood, and so can you. You've spent years giving everything to others, your work, your family, your responsibilities. Now give something back to yourself, because the strongest men I know, they don't need outside permission to feel powerful. They look in the mirror, scars, stretch marks, softness and all, and say, "This is my body, this is my life, and I still choose to feel alive." Let's finish this journey together. There's one final truth you need to hear. Let me say this clearly and from the heart. You're not broken. You were never broken. You were just never shown the map for this stage of the journey. No one taught you how to care for your aging body's rhythm. No one explained how your hormones, your energy, your desire would shift slowly, silently, like a tide pulling away from the shore. So you did what men are taught to do. You stayed quiet. You figured it out alone. You adapted in silence. But inside, maybe you wondered, is something wrong with me? No, brother. You were just flying blind. And now you've got the flashlight. You've got the truth, and truth, not shame, is what sets you free. Because the real power doesn't come from a pill, or a partner, or a perfect routine. It comes from the smallest habit, the quiet decision to treat your body with respect, even when no one's watching. It's in the way you breathe, the way you touch yourself with care, the way you choose rest over self, punishment, rhythm over repetition. That's where healing begins. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to remember who you are beneath the fatigue, the doubt, the noise. A man, capable of pleasure, strength, stillness, and fire. A man with wisdom in his eyes and a heartbeat that still wants to be felt. So if you take one thing with you from this, let it be this: your body isn't betraying you. It's waiting for you to finally listen. Now you know how. Now you can begin again, not as someone trying to fix himself, but as someone finally choosing to honor himself. And that choice, it changes everything.